I got an error.
No.
Oh wait, no. That was just a
Oh.
recording error. We are streaming.
Oh.
Oh, okay.
Okay,
All
that's the
right.
important bit.
Yeah, I saw it go live for streaming. Live for streaming. We are.
We are streaming.
Dun, dun,
Da, da,
dun.
da.
We
Oh, I
are
should
doing
log
it.
into
All
chat.
right.
Here. Yeah.
Hello, Mad Chatters, all of you patient folks out there. Welcome, welcome.
Hello.
We have gone through an incredibly fun afternoon we have moved heaven and earth to make this stream happen because we have the Anna B. Meyer on with us tonight. They can't see you yet, Anna. They can only hear you.
Okay. Hello.
Making sure audio sound good to everybody. If somebody in the chat can just let us know you can hear all of us. Yes. All right.
Excellent.
Oh, good.
Good.
Okay.
There's always that.
I did my job.
So
Way to
we'll
go.
talk about tonight and what we've got coming. We'll be on for a little more than an hour. We'll push this as close up to Jay's stream as we can to get the most time that we can with Anna tonight, because we were supposed to start at 5:30. You can hear Vivi. Pat, I don't need that right now. We had an echo on our stream last night. Vivi's was echoing, so you can always try. Like when you're trying to troubleshoot something, you can trust Pat Draws to actually make it worse.
And to mock it really heavily.
Exactly.
Mercilessly.
Like he's gonna.
Jay has a lot of guests today, so he doesn't need me for a while. So
Yeah, I
it's
see.
good.
He's got Eric Mona on with him too, and that's
It
going
will
to
be a bunch of stuff,
fun
yeah.
Well,
stream. Yeah.
why don't we show our beautiful faces, John?
All right, let's go. We'll show the beautiful faces and mine.
And
Oh, hush.
and we're live.
Is everyone
All
everywhere?
right, hello everyone, and welcome to Blue Box Lore Masters Arcanum. Little bit different format tonight, and we'll explain why in a moment. But I want to thank you for being with us, and we have some amazing guests with us tonight. You've met all of these folks in some way or another here on Blue Box, so there's familiar faces, but some of these folks have never met each other, and so I'm really excited about the topic that we have tonight. I'm also excited about the guests that we have. First of all, let me apologize to all of our Mad Chatters that were a few minutes late. You know, we did want to kick off at 5:30 tonight. Unfortunately, here at Blue Box Central, we lost power about an hour and 40 minutes ago, right in the middle of my work call, actually. And it didn't come back until I had already panicked, reached out to Thomas and Robert, and they both helped put together this kind of hastily constructed setup so we could get everybody on today. And then, of course, as these things happen, my power came back 5 minutes later, but it was too late because I could not have possibly gotten everything set up in time for the stream. So again, thank you for your patience, and we will run everything tonight. The last thing I'm going to do, Thomas, that's going to put a little more stress on you is I'm going to ask Anna. You sent me an email with those 2 sets of files.
Mm-hmm.
Thomas will have to be the one to do any sharing tonight. So if you could send those 2 emails to him as well. So as we're sort of going through our discussion,
I'll
he can
drop
be
that
my...
in the chat. That way I don't give everyone on the internet my
Perfect.
personal email
Yeah.
address.
Yep. That's a wise idea.
Our faces are
I
going to
was
look
about to
weird
say,
for
this
half a
is
second.
That's
every
Interesting.
minute.
fair.
Interesting.
That's fair.
Yeah, exactly. All right. So let's go around. Let's quickly do some introductions. And rather than me introduce each of you, I'd like to each of you just give a quick introduction of yourselves. We'll work our way around and we'll close off with Anna, who is our special guest tonight. And let's start with you, Rachel. Just tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hi. Oh my goodness. I'm Rachel. That is my name. Born given. I I play a lot of Dungeons and Dragons. It is a wonderful game, as I'm sure many of you know. Perhaps too much, if there is any of that. I met Thomas, who then introduced me to all of these lovely people, and I am incredibly excited to be a part of this. I'm in college for psychology.
Ooh.
That's fun. Fun facts. I have 3 cats. They're all really great. Yeah.
All right. That's good. That's good. Yeah. It's not a dating profile, Rachel. It's just an introduction on a stream. But no, so and both Rachel and the next person we'll introduce here, Cameron, they are going to be players in the brand new Sunday stream, which will be replacing Rune Lords because we concluded that campaign after 3 years.
Thank
And
goodness.
that will be so cool because it will be a crossover really between the aired world of Troll Lord Games. That will be the world that we'll be in. But we're using all the brand new content for the City of Altimira box set, which is not even out yet. The City of Altimira and that region living in both Aired and Greyhawk, a collaboration between Lord Gazumba and our friends at Troll Lord Games. And so I could not resist the opportunity to be the first one to put a live stream campaign up using the City of Altimira in the world of Aired. And these two young ladies will be 2 of the 4 players that will be playing with us on Sundays. And that will be debuting here in about 3.5 weeks. So Rachel, thank you for being with us. Cameron, go ahead.
Hi, I'm Cameron. I'm just playing Cameron here in Discord and over on Instagram. I don't do much on either one of those things, but I'm there regardless. I'm in graduate school right now, studying to hopefully integrate clinical mental health counseling and tabletop gaming in some way. But yeah, that's it. I'm currently trapped in a room with COVID. That's all I got going.
Oh.
Well, frankly, it's the only reason that we were able to have her tonight, because she was supposed to be on a trip, and because she couldn't go. But you sound great. You look great. Are you feeling okay?
I feel great. I mean, everything's uphill after here. I did get it on my birthday. So really, everything can
Just
only
hit
go up
after
from
hit.
here.
I'm so
It was
sorry.
Just keeps coming.
one big old dunk. But
yeah.
we're having a great day today.
Yeah. Well, and I want to tell you also, Annie, you'll appreciate this. Both of these young ladies have incredibly well thought out, detailed, multi-page backstories with such rich text for a DM to sink his teeth into and create great stories. They're just, I'm so excited already to be playing with them.
Pardon me?
Yeah.
It's just, am I chopped liver?
Sorry.
Thomas, after reading theirs, I actually did want to talk to you about yours, so we can do that off stream.
I'll go, guys. It's all right.
No, Thomas.
We'll forego the full introductions. Everybody here knows Thomas. Thomas, of course, plays Alcott Devereaux, Wizard Extraordinaire. Also runs Monster of the Week. Does yeoman's work with that. We're hoping to have at least one of those in the month of August as well. And then he is doing all of our tech support tonight. Thank you so much, Thomas. And then Robert, Phantom NJ, patron of the community, beloved by all in Greyhawkery, big Blue Box contributor, #1 on our Discord. It's not even close. Everyone else is trailing in his dust. Also runs Friday Night Crusades on our Discord and is an admin here for us. And Robert, thank you so much for being with us. The last introduction that we'll do, and I really wanted to do this because I was as excited about the content I was tonight. I was honestly more excited about introducing Anna to Cameron and Rachel. They were also excited as well. So Anna, tell our audience knows you, but tell these 2 young ladies a little bit about yourself.
Well, I'm a fantasy cartographer. I've been playing D&D and role-playing games for a bit over 40 years, and I've been mapping for well over 20, and as a serious hobby, and I mean serious, meaning spend lots of hours learning and tweaking it, and professionally a bit over 10 years. And I've published maps for about a dozen game publishers now over the last decade. And I run a Patreon, and thankfully hundreds of people are paying me money every month so I can do this and professionally, and it's a lot of fun.
That's
Yeah,
incredible.
and she was so humble in the way she said that. She is renowned and beloved. She is an icon among our communities, and she is also just a really, really good person to be around. She's with Jay almost every week on his streams and contributes all kinds of knowledge. So tonight, I wanted to start off before we get to session 0 characters or level 0 characters, which is going to be the bulk of our discussion tonight. I really wanted Anna to share with the 2 of you, but also with our Blue Box audience, because we do have a lot of crossover with Jay, but it's not all crossover. We each have some unique viewers, and so I wanted to expose everyone on the Blue Box channel to what Anna does. So Thomas is pulling up some of the images here in just a moment, but Anna, why don't you just start wherever you'd like to in terms of, maybe we start with the cartography, and then maybe we could talk about the heraldry, if that would be all right with you.
Sure.
And
yeah.
Just explain to us what this means, how you got into it, how you do it. It's fascinating, and whatever you'd like to share, it would be great.
Well, it started with me wanting to map my own campaign. Like so many other DMs, you scribble down notes and then you do maps and stuff. And then then I just saw, first at work in the military, I saw these kind of cool computer generated maps that was awesome. And this is back in the early mid 80s to early to mid 80s. I saw these kind of cool computer generated using LiDAR, radar, and all sorts of satellite technology, and was like, I want that for my games. And I was like, and I thought it was just a pipe dream back then, but I still had that kind of vision what I wanted. And then in the 96 or 95, I think it was about 95, then I saw in a computer magazine, I saw an ad for a software called Bryce that could do terrain like that, and I was like, oh, that's so cool, I want that. And there was one, it was only for Apple, so there was one store in Stockholm that sold Apple and Mac, so I just ran over there and said, these specs, what do you want it? And they will cost the equivalent of, what is it, like $12,000 or something like that.
Right,
and I was like, I was almost phoning up my credit card by then and there that day, so to speak. But I was smart enough to realize that I wanted Windows. I don't. So I actually managed to get a hold of the company. I worked in Intel after all, and they were based in Seattle. So I made a call to them and asked, like, can I get that to my Windows computer? And I said, no, hold off. And I said, do I need to buy a Mac? And they said, no, we're working on a Windows edition. It's coming out next year. So I held off, and then I bought the beefiest Windows computer money could buy. It cost like $9,000 or something, and I installed it and I started learning, and it was a tough curve to get it. It took me a couple of years to get something, probably 2,000 hours or so, to 3 years to get something that I started to realize, damn, I have the vision. That's what I wanted to look like. And then I just started working on it, and then I put a website up 2003 or something like that, and a few people found it, and it just took off from there. And then I kept that up as a hobby until I moved to California in 2011, and that's when I started doing it full time.
So I didn't realize you'd been doing this full time for 11 years now.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yep.
Wow.
Well, at first it was not really a job. It was just that I need to finish the damn Greyhawk map because I didn't have a job here. So I just like took the chance to simply, now I have the time. So I didn't look for a job. I just sat down and did it. And then Wolfgang Bauer from Kobold Press and a bunch of others reached out and said, oh, can you do maps for us? And it kind of gradually took off. Patreon came around, and now I have a not much, but I have a small but steady income. And that's what it takes.
That has to make you one of the most tenured people in the industry doing this, right? Like 11 years of map making, right?
There are others who've done it at least as long as I have. They've been painting maps for and stuff for a long time. And I think that's part of cartography is tedious, painstaking, and it's not it's if you do regular art, you can be passionate and you can work on a piece like this, but this is ongoing projects forever, so to speak. You're never done with it. And now when I've done the Greyhawk map, what I do, I start all over again to do it in a better detail. So this will never, I might be able to do it one more time properly before I die, so I have to retire. So that's what I'm hoping to do. So in the next 20 years, I hope to do it all over again, 1,000 times better than the previous existing one. That's my goal.
Well, that's fantastic, Anna. Thank you. And while you're talking right now, Thomas is showing images of all of your maps and all the content you've done. Is there anything in particular you would like to make sure he shows?
I've got the Floness up right now.
Yeah, we can talk about the existing big map that shows right now. That one is basically I used Bryce at Bryce 3D from DAS software. It came out in 97. I used the version that 5.1 or something like that came out in 2000, and I kept using it up until 2010 because I wanted to keep the same consistent look throughout the whole project. And then I used Photoshop and Illustrator. Photoshop to touch up things, put the little tiny bits together and paint over the ugly bits in Photoshop. And then I used Illustrator to create the heraldry, put all the symbols, the roads, and all that together. And then when I wanted to add Hepmonaland, I realized that now I have 20 years of Photoshop experience. I can probably wing it and just create Hepmonaland from scratch. So I tested my Photoshop equivalent, and the Hepmonaland expansion is about half the size of the current map. It took me 5 months to do instead of 5 years, and it was Photoshop only. So that was me getting better tools, better computers, and have 20 years of knowledge and skill now. So I know way more than I did, because I knew nothing of Photoshop or computer graphics when I started this.
So, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Robert.
Yeah, I was going to say. So the question I have is, at what point did you decide that you were wanted to put this into Atlas form? How did that come about?
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. At first, it was Atlas form, because the computers were so limited, and we also had to realize that was back in when my vision and my additional plan was from mid-90s. The internet, the World Wide Web was barely more than invented. There was no browsing back then. It was early days, meaning Netscape, for people that are old enough to remember, that was barely born as a company, and so there was no World Wide Web to publish. PDF publishing was not invented, meaning digital publishing was not invented. So I thought people had to, of course, download PDFs and then print them and then put them together and bind it. That was the only thing. That was one of the reasons. The other reason was that the computers were so minuscule in power that you can only work on tiny bits at a time. So I worked on one page after the other. And then I decided, and I did that up until 2010. Then I realized that now the computing power is big enough. It will be, so I merged all into one big map.
So kind of an adjunct to that, and by the way, thank you everyone that's in the chat. We appreciate all the chat, and hello to everyone. And we did get the questions from Shrappies. Anyone that's wondering, we're talking about level 0 tonight, which also would include session 0, and then we're beginning tonight with the incredible work of Anna B. Meyer, Fantasy Cartography and Fantasy Heraldry. The actual session 0 for the campaign that we're discussing tonight, which is called the Tears of Aird, will be on September 4th at 1:30 Central Time. And you can see more about that on our Instagram or on our Discord. Anna, back to Robert's question. One of the things that's fascinating to me about your work is that it is true cartography in the sense of the topology of the maps, the way the elevations are constructed, and even I've been on conversations with you about natural flows of rivers. And what sort of research did you do to get yourself to the point where you knew how to design the natural flow of a river or to map out the natural elevation topology on an atlas?
I did what a lot of gamers, good gamers and creators in this field do. You take your other passions and bring them into your games. And I have a number of passions. One of them is that I'm used to be a pilot, and I'm avid lover of flying. So I've seen the world from above, so I know what it looks like in the real world. I'm also an avid hiker and wilderness person to go out and do landscape photography and stuff. So I've been out in nature, and then I've tried to add into it being a hobby geologist, so to speak, to understand how the earth works and stuff like that. And biology, I love bird watching, taking pictures of wild animals and especially birds and stuff out in nature. So I tried to combine all these interests and start thinking, okay, if I take all this knowledge and then try to apply it to a fantasy world where magic is real, demons exist, and the gods do power, and dragons fly around, and things burrow underground and stuff like that. So I tried to figure out what would that place look like. And meaning we have all the stories, we know what the monsters look like and stuff. For me, it's like I want to figure out what would the world look like on a large scale to make those stories happen, so to speak. That's my perspective in my cartography. So I try to take that approach, meaning what world would create these stories and then visualize it. We see Hollywood does it to some degree, but they only do it scene by scene. I'm trying to puzzle together all these scenes into the large landscape, so to speak. And I want to expand that to what would the outer planes look like, and other planes, meaning map the abyss and the Feywild and stuff. That's what I'm thinking about right now, figure out what technology do I need, what skills do I need, what other kind of cool features, what happens to water in those worlds, meaning meaning the river Styx. I would love to map the river Styx. So these are the problems I'm tackling right now, thinking that I want to move into these things. And
ranging from what you do to the passions you have and the flight and the hike, it really makes me wonder, like, what am I doing with my life?
Yeah. Like
you're doing so much.
All right, so I really want the two young ladies here to be able to interact and ask a few questions. Otherwise, we three geeks are going to dominate this conversation because I know Thomas, Robert, and I can do that. So, Rachel, Cameron, anything at all? Like it could be about her life, about her technology, her mapping, her passions. Anything you guys would like to ask her?
I think at first I just want to say, like, one, your passion for this is so like deeply contagious. Like getting to watch your face as you were speaking is like, I feel like a live wire right now. Like I am so excited. And I think like this interaction right now to me is one of my favorite things about hobbies in general, is like, especially like D&D and tabletop gaming, is there is a micro level connection that happens between the people who are playing at the table. But then there is also this macro level connection that can be generational. Like you were saying dates that were before I was born when you were talking about when you were getting into this. And I know that that could be something that could lead to like separation between us of like, oh, well, that's just too far off. But like, to me, that is so amazing to know that there are people who have been in this community before I have been, who are making a space for me one day way down the road. So thank you for creating such a wonderful space for future generations to come.
Well, thank you. And I think that's so cool. And to me, it's like now we're living in the perfect of times. A lot of people, they wish they were back in their teenage years and stuff. It's like, no, the best time is now, meaning the world has now turned into something. I like it more, at least in the field of role-playing games and my passions and stuff.
Oh, it's so true. Yeah. I mean, we've talked about that, Robert and Thomas, like, when you grew up in the 70s and 80s, the number of miniatures, materials, terrain, but it was nothing compared to what we have today. The stuff that I have behind me here was unimaginable at that time. I mean,
Tailspire, period. Like even that.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you can. I mean, my hobby store didn't even carry miniatures. It would, they might have had a few somewhere around, and besides that, as a kid, I could afford the books. I could buy the books, or I could have the miniatures. I wasn't going very far without the books.
Yeah. I think the one benefit of having grown up before all this became accessible, so to speak, and affordable, was that you got a journey. I think I was born in that sense at the perfect time, meaning I'm born 1965. So I had like my teenage years and stuff. I was not exposed to this at all. And then it came in, first encounter with fantasy and gaming was when I was 15, and then it gave me the yearning and to really get into it. And then computers came around of age in the 90s, really, and stuff. And then I had like, I wanted it so bad. So when it came, I became passionate about it. So and then I kind of kept it up, and the world have kind of proven me more and more right by more and more people popping up that shares the same interest. People in my generation, there are a few crazy ones like John and me and Jay and others, but we were far between, and we didn't know each other because there were no internet, and it was hard to get to know each other. Today, I can sense that if I grown up today, I would have a million passions and I didn't know which one to concentrate on. But for me, it was easy. And I had a difficulty because I already have 10 passions. But the good thing is that you had more time back then in a way than you do now.
That's fantastic.
I also think too, one thing that you touched on, and then I'll throw it over to Rachel, is the integration of like your various passions into this.
Yes.
I think that's one of my like favorite things, is watching like friends that I've met, like seeing it's as though you've almost scattered like wildflower seeds over a character or over something that you've done, and you watch these little like bits poke out of a character that they've created or a world that they've created, of like, oh, I see that you're really interested in that. And so hearing your like fascination for like seeing the world from above, and your passion for hiking and stuff like that, and how that has all integrated here is so cool. It's just really
I think that's something
cool.
we should all do. Oh, sorry, go on.
So I was gonna say the exact same thing. Like I found it so cool that you were able to take all of these passions that you have and loves for all these different parts of the world and then put it together into something that you can work off of, not like work off of, but work on and just continue to, it's just, that's incredible. I love that so much.
I feel like I'm like full fangirl right now. Like I don't even have
Sorry.
Well, everybody knows girl gamers rock.
Yeah, for sure.
Any other questions that you had, Rachel, before we move on to some other topics? Go ahead.
Was curious, you've done this for so long. Has there been, I'm assuming like an easy answer would be Greyhawk, but has there been something that you've worked on that's been your favorite piece that you've created so far?
Greyhawk is my home piece, so to speak, and that's my home turf. And so in a way, it's both a passion, but it's also a test bed, because when I work on Greyhawk, I do the research anyway. I practically live in Greyhawk because it's kind of more than most people, so to speak. I get a chance to work with this, and I've done it for a lot of years, so I know where to look for information. I also have all these wonderful other Greyhawk nerds around me telling me what I do right, what I need to do, what I've done wrong, and so on. So I have the best quality assurance team in the world. So I use Greyhawk as a test bed. And then I also, when I do other commissions, then you have to work on time and on budget much more, so to speak. And people tell you what they need and what they want. And it's not up to me that much, so to speak. I'm more like I do a job on commission. And that is also cool because you get to confront other stuff and you get to push yourself and be effective in a way. And then that effectiveness thinking and the efficiency you learn from other projects, it's especially I have to mention Kobo Press, because those have been the biggest projects I've done. And in some ways bigger than Greyhawk. A lot of Greyhawk people that live in the Greyhawk community don't realize that I've done more square miles of Kobo, of Midgard than I've done Greyhawk. But a lot of it has not come out yet, so I can't talk much about it. But there are lots and lots. There are a couple of million square miles of Midgard maps that no one has seen outside of Kobo Press yet. So there is a bunch of stuff there, so to speak. And so I bring that kind of efficiency thinking back into Greyhawk again. But Greyhawk is both my home turf, so to speak, and my test bed. And in order to, so I know I've done all the stupid mistakes on my Greyhawk maps first, and then I go out and do commissions.
That's so cool.
It's really interesting to me the way that you talk about, like, it's your home. Like, you have this incredible intimacy with a world that a lot of DMs never think about. Like, when you look out into our world, it's not there's a building every 50 feet. The USA is mostly forest and desert and landscape that DMs tend to just sort of write off as you travel across it. But as a cartographer, you're boring over the details of a random desert in the middle of between a marsh and a mountain. And I love that.
And it's kind of cool because that's usually my job, especially when you do commissions, is that the authors of modules and source books and adventures of all kind, they write about the places where the adventuring happens. Me as a cartographer, meaning I have this little scene here, that little scene there, that little cave over there, that dragon lair over there, that city there, and there's like, but more than half of it, sometimes 90% of the land is white in between these little dots. So my job as a cartographer is to figure out what is the in between. We know the big desert is there and the big jungle is there, but there's like 2,000 square miles or 2,000 miles between the two. What the heck is going from desert to rainforest?
It's really easy to write the destinations.
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
not as easy to write the journey in between.
So it's that in between terrain, and that's my advice to cartographers. Your job, primary job, is to put the pieces in the puzzle together, so to speak, to figure out the in between, what goes between that and that spot. That's the expertise you need to bring into the team especially when you map like large continental and world setting maps. That's the expertise you need to figure out, because that's what they will demand from you.
Yeah, no, well said. And, that really goes to something Robert talked about on his recent LMA, talking about exploration. And it is those areas in between that oftentimes are the fun parts of a campaign. The idea that everything is like fast travel from this city to this city, like a teleportation, yeah, that can happen, I suppose, at later higher levels when you have a jerk wizard like Alcott.
You let me take it. You allowed it.
but that exploration of the map is a big part of D&D. So that's great.
And it's game style too, meaning a lot of game style doesn't need to know that picture. You just go from scene to scene and that's it. And that's a perfectly valid way of playing the game. But when I run campaigns, I run simulation style games, really simulation style. But a lot of people, they think simulation on a tactical level, meaning, oh, how do combat work? And they want to simulate and stuff. No, it's not that. I simulate on a larger scale, meaning overland movement and stuff. So if you have a bad guy and you want that is going to chase you down over land in the next month or two, he's like 500 miles away and he's trying to find you and so on. That means that you have chases, and party might not know about, the players don't know about it, but someone is out there hunting you, and I keep track of every hour and every day where you move and where the enemy moves, so to speak. So you have on that level, I do a lot of world simulation that doesn't happen in the background, and it's for me.
I do something like that, but it's
That
about
sounds
4 levels
terrifying.
higher.
Yep.
Like that's.
Yep. So when in my
wow.
campaign,
So-
when you see ominous clouds and demons and an army gathering at the distance, be worried and run the other way. So
Right. Well said.
Yeah.
That's always good advice.
Yep.
And I think we're going to talk about some of the simulation style you have, which is, again, conceptually, like our styles are so similar, but you are more granular. Like you really get down to the detail. And when I talked to you about session 0 stuff, and you mentioned, I'm going to exaggerate here, but your party spent like 4 weeks harvesting turnips or something like that. And I know it's like
it was not that bad, but turnips was one of the few crops that survived in the village after the Iusian priest taken over and killed off and blighted off most of it. But the turnips, I simply rolled and figured out, okay, what survived after 5 years of Iusian invasion? And turnips were the ones that popped up in my dice. And so, okay, so they have to live with whatever. So the inn served what they call the table turner. That's turnip juice, but that fermented turnip juice and some other stuff. So, and that's the other thing, meaning what do they actually live off, so to speak? What do they do to survive and stuff like that? I always try to, and that's being a soldier for decades. Then you always like, okay, how do you survive, so to speak? What would you do if I'm stuck in this village under occupation and things go bad and there's only minimum population and these evil bastards trying to subdue us, so to speak? What do we do? And I try to build that economy, that how the society works, so to speak. And I forced my poor players through it for the first like 10, 15 sessions or something until they escaped the village. Yeah.
That's
So,
incredible.
Go ahead, Robert.
So one thing I want to draw attention to, and because it's probably my favorite aspect of the map, it's a very, very Greyhawk thing, and Anna's done so much work on it, is, I mean, and Thomas, you can stop right there. The heraldry. The heraldry of the Greyhawk map, and the fact that it's included, because if you have the old Greyhawk folio, it has all the heraldry. I believe it's on the back cover.
Yeah, so the inside of the front and the back cover of the inside. Yeah.
So all the various heraldries, and then there was, I think, some more of them that you kind of developed as far as like instead of like the main areas, like the smaller parts where you, if maybe want to speak to the process of how you would figure out what that should look like.
Yeah, it was a lot of Greyhawk heraldry is kind of intimately connected. Even TSR said other settings didn't have heraldry because that was a Greyhawk thing. So we've been blessed with having good heraldry from the start, so to speak. And we have to remember this is like early 80s, so a lot of illustration was expensive and tricky and difficult. So that we got that much heraldry was really like a blessing. And so what I wanted to do was to fill out the gaps, meaning, there you have it. So and I love those. Those were some of the biggest thing that caught me right away.
This is the original from the 1980 for Cameron and Rachel, 1980, whatever year it was too, I think, or the World of Greyhawk glossography box set. And so this was what she was just referring to. It's the original stack of heraldry. But Anna, there are
I added, there's like 80 or 90 or something like that
most,
in the original. And I've added, I'm up to like 400 now, I think, or something like that. So
I mean, I'm sitting here with a zip file of 92 that look real.
That's the other thing. I wanted to upgrade that old kind of rickety looking or very basic looking. A lot of it is probably just clip art from the 1980s that they put in there instead of having, because some of it doesn't look that good, so to speak. Some of it looks really good even today. But so I wanted to take a new series, and I realized now I used Photoshop for 20 years, so let's put that knowledge to good use. So I've simply figured out what would these shields look like if you saw them on the battlefield, and so I started taking some of the latest Photoshop features that came around it a couple of years ago with these kind of cool filters that actually make it look like real, so to speak. So I took that and I made a couple of tests, and it was like, yep, this works. This looks really, really good. So then I took some of my designs and I redone all the existing old shields in that fashion, so to speak. Some of them have changed more than others. And then when it comes to add more shields, I try to look at the existing heraldry, what colors, what type of symbology, and then I try to look at what cultural things do they talk about, meaning you have old Flan culture, meaning that then they tie closer to nature. Their old faith religion is Druidism and stuff. So then they clearly, and there's a couple of examples. They have one from 10, for instance, that have a rune on the basis of gold or bronze background. So I realized that metal and runes and nature stuff is the theme of old Flan heraldry. So then I stuck with that with other, so it's cultural more than anything. And Erdi, for them, it's like they are more kind of, for fantasy perspective, modern. They want to show off their buildings, their prowess in fortress, in commerce, like gold coins and city symbols and stuff like that. So that's where they kind of prowess and want to. So I stick to that usually. But there's another cool thing with the Erdi. They also have colors for the different houses, meaning Rex Nyrond is white and red, and then you have the Nailexes using blood red, and the Crandons using black, and the Darmans using green. So I kept that, and I mix it up depending on who rules and who used to rule. So if you look at a shield and you see green above yellow, yellow is the old Elissa from Flan days, and then green is Darman. So you have green above yellow, and then a symbol that shows that the Darman came here, the Erdi house came here and ruled over the Elissa. We took the terrain, so it's green above yellow. So you can read the history of a place in the heraldry. And so that, and then you have also some old Erdi stuff like symbols of dragons and stuff. That's taken from Erdi legend, that if you read the legends, you can see that in the shields too.
God, I love
that
being a
makes
nerd.
method. So much.
I love this so much.
That's the kind of thing you have to kind of read in, so you can see a shield and see that's how real medieval heraldry worked in Europe.
Yeah.
But I don't go. People say, oh, but Europe rule says this. I said, no, Flanese is not Europe. I want, but the heraldry have the same function it had back in the day, to tell the story, to do PR, to impress, and to state political domination of something. It's the sign saying, we own you, or we rule here, I rule, we rule, or whatever. And that's and also to signal on the battlefield or on a city wall who rules and why and over who and for how long, so to speak. Those are the purpose of heraldry, and they, I think, will be exactly the same in a fantasy world, but the traditions will be different. Colors, the symbols will be different depending on the culture and stuff like that.
So just quickly here, what's so cool about this also is that she is involved with the box set of Altimira, that she's her co-collaborator with Jay. So there is going to be all the cartography done for that. All the heraldry will be done for that. That's going to be such a cool box set. And I love, this is part of, so what is Lore Masters Arcanum was a question that was in the chat earlier. So here at Blue Box, we play D&D, and we play D&D twice a week, most weeks. And then we have one time a week where we do this talk show. It's Lore Masters Arcanum. We have different topics and different ideas that we discuss. And tonight we're having a very special conversation with Meyer, who is a legend in the field of fantasy cartography and heraldry. And what I like about this, you're seeing, I'm geeked up about everything that's happening here. But one of the things I'm geeked up is about the reactions that you get from new players. Introducing new players to the depth that this game can have, this is, 5e is the gateway drug. This is the hard crack that we're showing you here. You get involved with this stuff, and look, I can have a fun role-playing game. Just say, hey, you're in a tavern with 3 unruly people, and the music's playing, and you can have a good time role-playing. But when you have this depth behind the world, and it makes that feeling of simulation and immersion, it's just a whole different level of involvement and satisfaction. And Anna, we do need to talk about our actual topic tonight, but may I just say, I mean, bravo, just absolutely.
Oh my God.
So because we started late, and because I want to talk to you about this so much more, I'm going to put you on the spot right now and say, would you be willing to come back on at some point in the near future and go into this a little bit more?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. All right. Wow. I mean, the detail on the shields, I could stare at those things all day long.
Yeah. It is gorgeous.
And so you'll have a key for these that will explain like each shield, all the details that you have in the colors, or how will you?
Well, there will be a heraldry compendium that I will put together this fall, so to speak.
I'm sorry, forgive me for my banal term. A key, a compendium. Yes, that's what I meant.
Of course, of course.
Yep, that will be that was the whole plan when I started doing this, and I wanted them in high resolution and looking good. So the goal is to put together. First, I want to have some posters. Hopefully, that Noble Dwarf could print them, have them available for print, so you can order them there. I hope that will be possible. So we're working on that. So we'll see if we can get that to happen. And otherwise, there will be at least PDFs and stuff, and there will be some background text and stuff on them too. So explain a little bit where they come from and stuff. The thing will be how to divide them. I think there will be the original shields from the Greyhawk box set. And then there will be various add-ons, so to speak, so people can get a poster of just those and put it on the wall. And it will also be, since those are originally TSR and now Wizard of the Coast property, that's not something I can sell prints of, so to speak. But if someone wants to print it, then it's fine, and I don't earn a penny on them, then it's okay. So we'll see what we can arrange. The other stuff is something that I've created. They are my creations. So then we can put them on T-shirts or coffee mugs or whatever we want to do with them, so to speak. So that's another possibility. So we'll see. Yeah.
Fantastic. So we may have some time to come back to that, but I really do also want to discuss the session 0. And so just to explain to everyone, as I mentioned, we're starting this new campaign. It will kick off in early September, and all that information is in our Discord. It's also on our Instagram channel, and it's going to be based on starting in a session, not just a session 0, but a level 0. I have never started with level 0. I've always started level 1, and I played this game for 43 years now, and I've never started at level 0. But I like the concept, and I've heard other people do it. I was talking to Anna last year sometime, and she was describing, I think it was on one of Jay's Gabbin shows that I was on. I can't remember exactly what it was. And she was running a level 0 campaign. And as I heard her describing it, it was clear to me it was very different than the concept of this that I had seen anywhere else. And so, Anna, I'll just maybe let you start off and just give us some of your sort of philosophies and methods on starting a level 0 campaign. And then maybe we can take the last bit of the stream here, talk about sort of the high level concept that I have for this new campaign, and let all of our various panel members here ask questions, and just kind of, we'll make this more of a fireside chat.
Okay, so the reason that I wanted to go 0 level was the same reason that I'm now going classless. I want the story of the game to build the characters. That's the concept of class is one of the cornerstones, pillars of D&D, but it's the one that I like the least. I love how almost everything else works in D&D, but I don't like the fact that you have a character that you kind of create outside of the game and then of the story, and then you kind of plot out, say, oh, this character will learn all these things as the game progresses. That has nothing to do with the story, because you didn't even know the story. To me, that's something that ties back to the roots of a military war game, strategic war game, that I think it's time, at least in my games, to abolish that. And I want the story to evolve. The character should evolve with the story, and should gain experience, features, and abilities and stuff that comes from the story. That
Okay.
was this.
So that's the only
reason
time I'm going to
behind it.
disagree with you tonight,
Yeah.
Anna. I certainly don't disagree with the evolution of the characters with the story. I don't like the idea that a class is a straitjacket. But I find there's a richness and a guidance to it and a structure which actually enhances the freedom. But we don't need to talk about our differences. Let's move on.
No, but I think it's perfect. And class are perfect when you want to introduce people to the game. Then it's perfect. Go classless and even zero level game is for when you played for some years, and then you know what the game is about and stuff like that. That's when you want to deep it. I totally agree with you. The class definitely has a room, but not for everyone and not for every campaign.
Sure. It's just ironic that such a classy lady wants classless.
Yep. So then I wanted to figure out a way to get the characters to learn, because you want them up to that same level of abilities that you will have at level 1, meaning how do you introduce. So I basically took all the different features that a first level character can learn, meaning cantrips, first level spells, using armor, using weapons and stuff, and then I just plotted them down and say, okay, how do you go about learning that in the game, during the game, so to speak. And then I figured out a way of you basically you roll to try and, let's say I want to be a wizard, I want my character to be a wizard, and then you have no idea, you've never seen a spellcaster, you don't know, but you know there is something called magic, and you kind of figure it out. Then that will be a really difficult roll. You have to make like a roll, basically a crit. You have to roll a DC 20. But you can try every day to do it. So there's like 5% chance every day that you will get a little bit on the part. So then I will say that you need like 10 successful rolls in order to be able to cast that first spell. Meaning if your character just sit down every day and do it, it will take on average like 100 or 150 days of figuring out just to be able to learn that cantrip, which seems kind of excessive, but I think it's kind of realistic. But then you can better the odds. If you've seen one cast magic, all of a sudden you get like a +2 on the roll. If you've been able to study carefully, like someone is prepping spells and then cast it next to you, then you get like a +4 on the roll. If you have someone teaching you, then you will automatically succeed. Every day you get someone to teach you, you will automatically. So if you have a teacher 10 days and you cast that cantrip, you don't need to roll, because the teacher will make sure that you succeed. And that, so the time and how difficulty, and also the someone teaching you, that was basically my premise for it. So I basically put that in, and that goes for everything: learning weapons, armor, or whatever, so to speak. So that's the basic rules. You just take the existing features and figure out the time it will roughly take someone to learn it from zero. And also you can put in the equipment. In order to learn how to use a sword, you need a sword, or at least a mock-up of something that feels a little bit like
Rachel and I are used to this because we played a little bit of GURPS for a while.
Yeah, there you go.
Oh yeah.
And GURPS is very crunchy like that. Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah. So I wanted to put that into D&D, so to speak. That will, but I love to keep how action economy works, how combat works, hit point works, armor class, and all that, so to speak. Yeah.
Well, I love that. And I have a couple of thoughts and comments, but I want to make sure the rest of the panel can comment and ask any questions. I do want to follow up on that, because as a DM, just a couple of things that you said there, like there are so many story ideas and fun things that you could do with that concept. Just the idea of this, little lad or lass that wants to be a mage, and they're trying to sneak in and peek through the window and watch someone in the town that they know practices magic, and a whole adventure around how you could just do fun stuff like that. But rest of the panel, any thoughts or questions you'd like to ask?
I mean, I love the concept. I love the idea of starting out unaware of everything and yet knowing that you want to be something, and trying to find in the world the tools and means to become that something. It's not just going to land on your doorstep. You're not just going to find a wizard hat and suddenly have access to magic. You have to go about doing it. And I really like that. It's almost like a survival aspect of things. You're having to go out of your way to find power and might and story in the world.
Yeah. And it also expands the sweet... Oh, sorry, go on. Cameron.
Oh no, you go ahead, Amy.
Yeah, I was going to say it's the sweet spot I've noticed in almost all editions. It varies a little bit, but it's from first level to usually about 7 or 8, maybe 10, 12 at the most. After that, game becomes difficult, cumbersome, takes
Agreed.
a long time.
Agreed.
So that means that I wanted to extend the sweet spot in the other end, meaning the low end. So you can kind of move in. So when you're first, second level, you already have 10 sessions done. So you can prolong the sweet spot of the game by starting earlier. So
That's exactly why I want to do this. I mean, you couldn't have said it any better. The fear, the when you got 2 hit points and you know a rat could actually kill you, not just be a sub quest.
Yep.
That's a meaningful time of the game, and it adds so much to role play. And I wanted to extend the sweet spot. That's such a good way to put it, Anna.
John
Cameron,
only says that because he doesn't want to hand out XP very often. That's why it'll extend
I'll have you know, my Greyhawk Awakening cast had their XP before I went to bed last night. So
all right. Well, when you can prove me wrong in our campaigns, then I'll.
We
Cameron,
look
please,
forward to
you
you
had something.
proving us wrong.
Go ahead, Cameron.
Oh, I was just gonna say, I think like, isn't that how regular life works so often? Is like you might go out and set out to do something, and then you realize, oh, well, I'm not very good at that, or I'm even better at this other thing, and like, you know, right now the character that I'm working with for this upcoming campaign, I'm not quite sure what her class will be yet, and I'm kind of okay with leaving it a little bit nebulous. There's a couple of routes that maybe she could take, but until I know her and until she interacts with the world, I don't know yet. And so like I think that's what I like so much about like this kind of stripped down version of it. Lets you like be that character and like kind of have a more reactionary like life in this realm that you're in, of like, who do you bump into, who helped shape you into you, you know, what thousands of paths can you take that are, you know, spelled out before you in your one little starting town. I think it's very exciting.
I agree 1000% with everything that has been said before me, and it was very eloquently put, so I'm gonna say that too. I second it. But I'm also really excited that we have, like, we know what age we're starting at, where we're starting. We have no idea how, which I'm very excited about, but the fact that I know that we get to work together to create all of these characters in these moments, and oh, I'm so excited about it. And then we have no idea how we're going to end up, and it's just, we just will eventually, and that's incredibly
if we're gonna
exciting.
end up.
If we're going to end up too, that is sure.
So I, 2 things I want to say there. One, because a couple things Rachel said might not make sense to people in the chat. So we're starting in the free city of Altimira in the world of Erd. They will be starting as level 0 characters. They're actually going to start as sort of young teen or like immediately preteen, like 10, 11, maybe 12 years old at the most. And they're going to essentially be in some form or another by various means urchins starting out in this story. But each of them has a robust backstory, and they can immerse themselves in the characters. And they have each pre-selected a class, but I'm going to... They're not going to have any abilities in that class as they begin. They're going to be small children. But I will give homage to what Anna has said here. I might even rescind my statement earlier that I disagree with the classless approach. I think that actually does make a lot of sense. You could have a bent that you want to pursue, and maybe, as Cameron said, you find out you like it and you're good at it, or maybe through the story you thought you were going to be this, but you decided to be that. I mean, why would you not? I think that's a great flexibility to add. And so I think the second thing is, I want to be clear, as Rachel said, she is in college. So any rumor that she is in middle school is absolutely inaccurate.
It's all the pink.
I want to dispel that. She is in college, all right?
We always want to be in middle school, and we want to have that playfulness still in us. So,
That's exactly right, dog. Yeah. I'm teasing you, Rachel.
I
Robert
promise
Thomas?
I'm 20 years old.
So the question I have is, and I don't know that if I've heard you answer this before, with regards to the starting off at level 0 and such, and how long they were. Did the people that your players, did they know going in when they were recruited for the game that this was going to be the case, or?
Yes, I think not all the players, but most of them did. I think I had one player at least that came in so late that barely had chance to be part of. There were some players that came in after 2 or 3 sessions in the game while they were 0 level. So, but the ones that were initially in the campaign, they knew about it, and we had like a session 0. We had a couple of session 0s where, because I gave them the history of the village, everybody who knew there, I gave them the map with every household and stuff. Meaning there was like 50 people or so living in the village. I gave them the names, the little portrait, and the backstory, what they knew, and then we had a session 0 where I presented all that to the initial players. But then there were a couple of players who came in afterwards who only got the very quick, like, okay, you're here, and boom, now we go, so to speak. So yeah.
And we're what?
Yeah.
So on that, what was the reception from those players to doing level 0 and moving through level 0 into potentially level 1?
I think it was a mixed bag, so to speak, because some players like the familiarity. They want to know, okay, I know this, I know where I'm going at, and so on. They don't want the uncertainty of, okay, the fluid, I need to go around looking for my next ability and so on. It's like it should be there and doing, and I think that also tells there is the way you look at rules is very different from DM, from group to group, from DM to DM, and from play style to play style. Meaning in my game, rules are scaffolding. It's a necessary evil and it needs to be there. Otherwise, it's just improv kind of theater, so to speak. It's there to give rigidity and move the story forward, so to speak. But in some players and some groups, rules are essential. They are the big part. A lot of players love the fact that I can look for a +2 sword instead of a +1 and have one more plus. That's essential, and I can totally understand. That's a very valid way of playing D&D. It's not the way I normally play. I've had that period when that was all I wanted, was to have a bigger golf bag of cooler weapons and stuff like that, and more pluses and stuff. But I moved on from there, and unfortunately I kind of demand from my players to at least acknowledge that there are other features of the game than pluses and minuses of things, so to speak, and especially in combat.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well said. Well said.
I mean,
go ahead.
2 of the 3 letters are role playing, and then the last part is game. Not to say that the game is not why we come to the table to do it. I always say that whenever I make the joke, it's mostly a role playing. But
I think it's important that you as a DM, that you communicate your preferences for how you want to play at your table, so to speak, and it's preferences. It's not dictates, so to speak. It's preferences and what you emphasize on. So players can pick and choose a game that will reward their interest and their passions in the game, because that's the cool thing with role-playing game. It's not such a wide family, and the hobby is so wide, and there's so many different cool ways of playing that you can have different types of interest and passions fulfilled differently in different types of games. And I think that's part of the fun. Originally it wasn't that way. It was more rigid, and this is the way to play and no other, so to speak. And that means that even the way I played originally, we played very old school, that one of the goals for the old school was for the DM to outwit the players, meaning figure out cool things that now you put yourself in a dumb stuff and you didn't think about this, so now your character's going to die, and that's a valid way. It's like playing chess in a way with more rules.
No. I like simulations, and simulations include danger. It's funny. Sorry, go Anna.
No, I was going to say that's a valid way of playing it, and for a lot of players, they want that nerve, so to speak, and losing characters. I've evolved away from it in a lot of instances, but not fully, but a lot of sense, yes.
Yeah. So in the chat, it was funny. I Mystical Unicorn Amanda, she has unmasked my virtue signaling. You know, I say that I like introducing new generations to the game and the style, and she has correctly identified that I just have a whole new generation to traumatize.
He's not wrong.
No, Thomas, your character got to level 12 and never died. So quit whining.
Definitely died.
No, it was a technicality.
100% died and then was brought back by literally a miracle of the thing. I was ready for him to just be dead.
He's only mostly dead.
You can't take this from me. He died.
All right, that's awesome. Right, so Anna, back to the level 0 sort of mechanics. I think everything you said made a lot of sense, but role-playing game, to Thomas's point, I think every part of the game can have role-playing. I don't like it even for combat not to have role-play. Combat should be role-play.
Sure.
And anybody that wants, Jay's starting, anyone that wants to hang on with us, we're going to go about 10 more minutes with Anna because we did start a little bit late tonight and we're having such a good time with her. But Jay and I have already chatted. You might have seen that earlier. He said, go ahead and we'll jump in 5 minutes to his time would be 7. My time would be 8 Eastern. And so if you want to hang with us for just a few more minutes, we'd love that. And then we'll raid straight into Jay. When you do things like turnip farming, let's come back to that example. What does that actually look like at the table? And I could role play some turnip farming, but I don't know that I'm going to take up 3 hours role playing my turnip farming. There just could be some dice rolling around that, I guess. My time of season, my fertilization, my water, my what. How do you game that at the table?
I think we live in such hectic times. So meaning in fantasy world, going back to medieval times and stuff, time is a resource that DMs need to use more, so to speak. And with that, I mean, boredom is one of the things that you can torment your players with more than anything. Meaning people that come in and they want action and they want results and they want it right away. In order to get them, meaning it's like a movie. Think about horror movies and thriller movies and big adventure blockbusters like Lord of the Rings and others. Like if it were all moving the story forward frame by frame, anyone who read Lord of the Rings book, the first 500 pages is just boring, going through nothing happening, so to speak. So you need to weed out the players who can't take it, meaning you need to yearn for the first combat.
I mean, Frodo waited what, like 7 years before he left?
Yeah, exactly. So what I mean is that take an hour and describe that thing. Make some perception rolls and some moving about, telling things, but sprinkle in some knowledge that be helpful down the line. So when I prep sessions like that, I put in like 3, 4, 5 things that they could discover if they're really lucky or smart or inquisitive, and things that they should know and they need to know later, so to speak. A little bit of lore they could discover. Like in the initial sessions there were 2 mass graves outside of the village, and there was a druid oak, and under that was some Shieldlanders. First, there was the Halmarda the Cruel. He came in, and that's part of Greyhawk history in the Shieldlanders. He came in and took this little village, or it was a town back then, killed off everybody. He was the guy that got the hand and the eye of Vecna, thought he was Vecna. He ruled in Vecna's name in this era. So he came in.
Vecna was just a Stranger Things character.
Exactly, but he's not. No, he's this is the original Greyhawk Vecna, so to speak. And he Halmarda the Cruel found his hand and eye, and like 300 years ago came in and thought he was Vecna with 500 or a couple of hundred of his people. He was fleeing, trying to establish a realm, and then the knights of the Holy Shielding, that was a young order back then, were hunting him. He came in and wanted to use that village to simply just a stopgap and fill up his bellies and stuff like that. So he came in, killed off everyone in the village, buried them in a mass grave outside the walls to scare off any Shieldlanders who would come, put the heads on spikes and all that evil stuff, and so on. And then when the people out turnip farming and stuff, they walked past that spot where that happened 300 years ago. So if they were perceptive, they could get the feeling. And then afterwards, when the Shieldlanders, after Vecna, they liberated the village, killed off Halmardar's men and Halmardar himself. And what they did, then they buried and burned the Halmardar men, and there were fragments of the eye and the hand in that pile of stuff, a pyre, and those are still, I haven't told my players that they could have found that
Don't let them watch this stream.
Yes. But now they've gone from the village. Now they go back. There are small fragments of the high and the hand. So Vecna's, little bit of Vecna's residue is buried out there in the fields they went. They could have sensed it and stuff. And then what happened was, after that, the druid, because these people were old faithers, so because these were the early days of the Shieldlanders, and the Shieldlanders had failed them once, so they didn't trust it. So they, of course, got a village druid who planted a tree to sacred the area, and they started worship and tree. And that tree is standing there to this day, and it's a sacred tree. So if it burned down, it comes back up again the next day or in a few days. And the Ayusian priests got so scared when they burned it up, and it came back again, and so on. So they let it be, and then the villagers go out secretly, go and bless to it, and kind of use it as a little gathering place, because the Ayusian priests are scared and say, well, that tree is magical, because they are the not capable Ayusian priests. They're like first, third level or something like that. So they don't want to mess with things that come back, so to speak. So
I love that, and and that really sort of belies the fact that it's a boring turnip farming area when you have fragments of Vecna in a pile just a little while away.
Yeah, so there's history to learn, so to speak. And if they spoke to some of the oldest people that survived in the village, they knew a little bit about this. They've heard and so on. So you need to, you should be inquisitive and perceptive and do some inside role stuff.
Anna, and we only have about 3 minutes. I got to make a couple announcements, and I want to give anyone a chance to ask some final questions of Anna. But for example, any of those session zeros, you're very detailed. Do you have an example that's documented that you would be willing to share with me, where I could see how you you sort of think and lay that out?
Yeah, I have for my patrons, and you're one of my patrons.
I'm one of your patrons. Yeah.
Yeah. So there
is it on the site? Can I just download it?
Yes, I put together the history of the village and stuff like that. There will be more stuff coming, the full explanation of the village, all the people there and stuff. I just wanted my players to be gone from the village before I posted it to everybody.
Perfect. All right.
Yeah.
All right.
So it's
I will definitely. Yes, I'll take care of that, Amanda. Before I log off tonight, I will take care of that. All right. Final questions for Anna, or comments.
Thank you for being so cool all the time.
Thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you. This is awesome fun to babble, because in my real life, no one understands what I'm doing. So that's why it's wonderful to hang out with people at conventions or in Zoom and Twitch and stuff like this, with people that understand what I'm doing. So so it's a lot of fun. So thank you so much for having me.
You bet. And typically we do more, chat in the stream, but with all the folks that we have, questions from the chat. But I really wanted to let the panel here engage with you, Anna. Let me flip the script around before I close out.
Yeah.
You've played this game for a long time, with these two young ladies they've both played. So they're not neophytes, but they're really, really early in their D&D experience. Beyond sort of what we already covered in terms of taking your time and building the character, what advice would you give them about playing this game and developing a love for it that lasts?
I think you should do both playing and DMing. You should both run your games and play games. I think both of them are equally important, because that gives you an appreciation for the person that does the game for you, so to speak, that run the game and do the prep. And you also get involved in the rule system and making judgment and stuff that is important. So I think a good player needs to be a DM and vice versa. So I used to DM way more than I played, which made me worse in both roles. So now I'm actually more doing both, and that's really good. And then start thinking about what you want to create, so to speak, meaning specialize in something. You do rules, you do backstories, character portraits, magic, cool things. You want to be the Fae expert, or you want to dive into demons, or whatever you want to be. I want to do dogs in the world or something. Dog movies. Meaning that there is so many cool things you can do, and then share it with the greater community. It's a lot of fun.
Anna, bravo. What great counsel. I could not agree more. So as we close out, reminder, we do have a stream on Sunday at 1:30. That will be run by Robert. Robert, do you have a title or a theme you can share with the team?
No, not yet, because it is going to be Greyhawk based. It will be Castle and Crusades. I am still looking for at least 2 players. So
great.
If you're interested, just hit me up.
Anybody in the chat, you You can go to our Discord. Manda Mystical Unicorn has posted it several times. You can message Robert. He's Phantom NJ. N is in new, J is in Jersey. And you can message him and join his. You don't have to have any prior experience. Robert is really good at DM at just sort of bringing someone in off the cuff. Then next Tuesday night we'll have our normal Greyhawk Awakening session. The party is in dire straits. They are delving beneath the Temple of Hextor. Anna, we're doing Gary Julian's Dragon Magazine Spine Castle adventure. I have leveled it down because that was for much higher level characters, but it's still a very dangerous and fun adventure. And I believe last night when we concluded, 3 of the party members, 1 involuntarily and then the other 2 voluntarily diving in after him, are down a 95-foot pit that has water, a cage, and a creature that they just saw at the end of the session last night, which is quite scary.
That's terrifying.
The other 2 players are up above, and they're fighting a massive animated chain, which was what caused the first player to go in the pit involuntarily. So it's going to be a fun time next Tuesday night, and then we'll be right back here with LMA next Wednesday. I want to say thank you to all of our panel here. I know with all of us and with Anna just giving us so much knowledge, there wasn't a lot of time for Q&A from everyone, but great job. Thank you, Thomas and Robert. Thank you especially to Rachel and Cameron for carving out time. I cannot wait to play at the same table with the 2 of you. And Anna, thank you so much for being with us tonight.
Thank you.
Thank
This
you,
is awesome
Anna.
fun. So and I'll pop over to Jay and I'll see you people there again in a few minutes.
All right, we're raiding into Jay in just a few seconds here, and we'll give him a nice strong raid. He's got a great group tonight. He's got Eric Mona with him. It's going to be a lot of fun, and raiding now. All right, and with that said, we're done.
Woo!